I do. All right. I just actually remember to start recording. So we will have this event recorded. And so I know I've said hello to most of you, except for Mark, who just came in. And so welcome. So you are going to be hearing about discovering and amplifying higher purpose. So we have a four-tenet series for Conscious Capitalism Kansas City in 2021. And this is the second in our series where we're focusing on higher purpose. So elevating humanity through business begins with knowing why your company exists. So without clear answers to this critical question, businesses do not have a compass to focus on their true north. So a little bit about what to expect today. Now that you know, so if anybody is not here for higher purpose, so now you know you can jump off, but you all look familiar and purpose-centered. So I think you're in the right spot. So today, I'm going to finish some introductions. We're going to have storytelling by Andy Eby, who is a caregiver and also, I don't think that's enough, is it, Andy? But you're going to be introduced anyway, so I'm not going to focus on that. But anyway, I love the fact that Andy is a caregiver because I've never really known an individual that just exudes their purpose. And generally just feels like he is a caregiver in life. So he's going to share with us his purpose journey. And then we're going to have a little Q&A and reflections, share some appreciations. Then we also want to let you know that the second part in the purpose series is going to be more hands-on on May the 18th. So we invite you to mark your calendars if you do not have that already marked. That'll be a 60-minute session. Where we'll have facilitated conversations, hands-on activities, and one-on-one connections for discovery. So that's examining why you and your company and you as a leader exist. I kind of messed that up. Creation, crafting a business purpose statement centered on the difference that you want to make in the world. And then integration, forming a plan to integrate higher purpose internally and externally. So, and those of you guys that have been through this, you know it's going to take more than an hour to accomplish this, especially the integration part, but this is a really, really great primer to get started. All right, awesome. So did I hear somebody?
I just said that's awesome. Thanks, Ron. And then Sadie just posted a link to the May 18th event as well. So wanted to point that out.
All right,
Ron,
I'm going to introduce purpose real quick.
Okay.
Are we ready? All right, so what is purpose? We tested, hopefully everybody can see this. So I pre-drew some of this stuff just because of time, but often we talk about purpose is really the common ground and the intersection between passion, talents, and the needs of society. Sometimes there's another circle that's drawn in here that talks about what we can actually monetize, but I do believe that purpose should transcend what we can monetize. Because for many of us, our purpose may not be what we actually sell. And over time, what we actually sell and how we monetize the fulfillment of our purpose may change. So purpose it's the sweet spot for true meaning and fulfillment. And it fosters meaningful innovation, visionary ideas, and help to navigate through turbulent times. As Andy and I were talking a little bit about his story, I highlighted navigating through turbulent times. And I'm guessing for many people in the last year, regardless of whether it's ended up well or not, things have felt turbulent at some point. So having a true north to focus on is something that can really be, it's not just for the good times. It's something that we lean on and really focus on. So I truly believe that a purpose should be galvanizing. It should really meld that organization together. People should really be able to rally around that. So it's a true north, it's a compass, it's an alignment tool to bring your team together. It is a common wrong that you want to right in the world. It is a rallying cry. It's an attractor of business and not just talent, but really the right talent and opportunities that show up when you declare that purpose and start to head in that direction. And also an engagement tool. And so all of this, and I could probably go on and on with this list on what purpose is and what purpose does, but it ultimately equals increased profitability in the long run. Declaring purpose and being a purpose-driven organization is not something that you do and it works perfectly overnight, but it builds impact, and it builds companies that matter over the long run. All right, so to get started right now, I'm going to ask if you guys have a pen. Everybody have like a pen and paper. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to reflect on why is it important for you to be here today? Why is it important for you to be here today? For you, for our community, for the world, why is it important? And I like to start with this question because I think it's important for us sometimes to realize why we're giving up our valuable time to attend something. And then when we can connect to why other people have given up their valuable time, it can help to amplify our learning for an event. So when you're done, I'm going to have everybody type into the chat and just type it in. Why is it important for you to be here today? And you can just type that in whenever you're ready.
And they can hit enter too.
Yeah, type it in and hit enter. We're going to take them as people happen. All right, connection with people who share the same values. Connection with exciting individuals, learn new perspective, exchange ideas, like-minded people, gain new insights, learning for personal development, reconnect with that which is alive in me, hone in on purpose, hear stories from others, passion and purpose of inspiring content in our community, and learning more about Andy's story. Awesome. Fabulous. I really appreciate you guys sharing. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Christina.
Thank you, Ron. That was awesome. I always love your activities that you kick us off with. So we're all excited to have Andy Eby here today. He is, hopefully you guys saw some of the content that we shared out, but he is technically his role. He calls himself a caregiver for Bickford Senior Living, which is a family owned and operated company. And you guys can learn lots of more about Andy based on the stuff that we've shared out. But my personal introduction that I wanted to share is we had an opportunity to hear Andy speak for our conscious leadership cohort that we had last, actually it was in the fall of 2019. And he is one of the most inspiring speakers. He's so passionate. And it just, when you hear him talk, I just feel like it resonated with so many people who heard him. And, you know, when we laid out this programming for this year, it was absolutely hands down. I was like, I want to have Andy Eby on the topic of higher purpose. So I'm excited to have him here today. And without further ado, I want to kick it over to Andy. But I do want to let you guys know, if you can mute while you preserve quality when you're not talking, that's great for the recording. And then also too, if questions come about as Andy is sharing his story, sharing insights with us, feel free to put those in the chat. It will be on and available. You can just type them as soon as you have them. And then if those questions are coming through and it makes sense for us to kind of pause on Andy real quick and ask him that question, I'll definitely do that. Otherwise, we're going to try and get through all of those questions at the end of the session today. So don't be shy, just put those questions in there and we will work through them as we go. And with that, Andy, welcome to Conscious Capitalism, Kansas City. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you very much, Christina. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for the conscious capitalism community in Kansas City. I'm a big proponent of conscious capitalism. It's been very much of a source of inspiration and has really served a big purpose in my own life in so many ways. So I owe a debt of gratitude to the conscious capitalism community. So that's one of the reasons I'm here that I didn't put in my chat window. So super excited to talk about purpose. As Christina said, and that's very alive in me. I love talking about it. I love engaging with others about higher purpose and how we manifest that in which is trying to move in and through us into the world and bring that into the world. Usually when I have conversations like this or presentations, many times I have like very prepared notes and things like that when I speak at different conferences and things. And I was like, you know what, today I'm just gonna go where the spirit leads me, as they say. So who knows what the hell of what I'm about to say, but let's just see what kind of comes out of that. And we got a small little group here, so I also don't want to hog the conversation too, because there's so much purpose that's alive in all of you guys. It's alive in me. It's alive in you. And so feel free to jam with me here. Ron Barger here has a lot of meetings with me, business partners and some ventures together. And that's one of the favorite words we use is jam sessions. And when we start jamming on purpose, watch out, because who knows what's about to emerge out of that. So as I was thinking about how do I want to engage in a conversation about purpose, and my frame for today's conversation is I'm going to share a few frames that are just very meaningful to me in my own life. As I've tried to uncover the purpose that's alive in me and bring that into the world, I want to share a few frames that I've used that have inspired me to get there. I'm going to share a little bit of the story and the pathway that it took for us to uncover our purpose and what that was like. And since we've done that, what have we navigated and what is emerging into the world now as a newest expression of our purpose. So that's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started. What I wanted to do is share with you a frame for me that is just very, very powerful. And this right here is a quote. This right here is Martha Graham. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Martha Graham, but she is a dancer, an instructor, an artist, a world-renowned teacher. And she has a quote, and this quote is so alive in me, and I want to share it here with you. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there's only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, not how it compares with other expression. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. Man, that is a freaking beautiful quote. And even as I've heard that numerous times, there's so much comes alive in me. And as I start to move into an expression of my purpose, that's really how, if my definitions of purpose is that quote. And so I want to unpack how I just relate and connect with that, because that is very much of what I believe of how purpose moves in and through us, is that there is something, and she calls it a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated in you, it's translated in me, and it's translated through us into action. And much of the purpose work we do is sometimes in regards to our businesses and our work. And sometimes our purposes is kind of personal purposes, and some kind of work in both realms. And everyone kind of approaches differently. But there is something, I believe, this is my own beliefs, that is something that is much larger than you, that is moving in and through you. And what that quote talks about is that you are here, and there was an infinity before you, and there is an infinity after you. And that makes you, by definition, unique. That in all of that time that we can't even comprehend, the collection of atoms and molecules that makes you has never existed before, nor will ever exist again. And that by very definition makes us unique. we will never exist again. And so I believe there's purpose in that. Just by being human, just by being here, and just by being present, there is something unique about that for me, for you, for all of us. And what that quote does such a beautiful job of, it says, if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium again, and it will be lost. Do you relate with your purpose in that way? That you realize that that which is yours to bring into the world, if you don't do it, it will never be brought into the world. It will be lost. And the quote goes on and is really beautiful in how it talks about so many times we compare your purpose to my purpose, or these companies that we put up like on pedestals of like their purpose, and we feel like, oh, they're doing so much more in the world than I am, or I'm not doing anything as it compared to this person or that company and different things like that. But what she does in this quote is she says, screw all that. It is not your business to determine how good it is, not how it compares with other expressions of purpose. It is your business to keep it yours. That purpose, it's yours, clearly and directly, that no one, that no event, that no challenge, that no success can take you away from that. And what it talks about is to keep this channel open. Because I believe that purpose moves through us, not necessarily from us. I think it moves through in, like we're like a vessel. And what I have felt in my life is when I've tried to be the controlling leader, which I am a lot, just full of vulnerability. I'm very controlling, and I try to do all this stuff. When I try to do all that and shake it, I might move towards my purpose, but I'm not fully living into my purpose. And there are these moments when I realize that in which I represent is much larger than me, and I am a steward, I am a representative, I am a servant of that, and it is my job to serve, to be in service to that which is trying to move through me. So when we talk about purpose, like, all I got to do is read that quote, because there is so much that is alive in them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to freaking read it again. So I'm going to share it here with you because it's so beautiful. And, you don't come across beautiful quotes every day. So let's talk about it. There is a vitality, a life force, a quickening that is translated through you into action. Because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how it compares with other expression. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly. Keep the channel open. So as you begin, connecting with your purpose, and as you begin to do your own work or reconnecting to that which has already been alive in you, I think that quote is just something that is it's a tool, man, that gets me in a space. Like when I start thinking about that connects me out of my automatic mind, my automatic thinking, this on mode that that we call. I think Ron and I were talking a little bit about that, the being on, and when I'm in my purpose, it's much more of a felt experience. It's much more of a fluid experience. It's much more fluid and uncertain. And I feel like when you're living your purpose, you're dealing with vulnerability and emotional exposure and risk and uncertainty. And when you're fully living into that purpose, there is that ultimate feeling of what it feels like to be alive, which is something that's very important to me, to live a life that I feel alive. And I think when I'm living my purpose is when I feel most alive. So I want to share a little bit of the story of, Bickford Senior Living. We got started in the senior care business. We serve assisted living, memory care, Alzheimer's residents across the country. We serve over 3,000 residents in 11 states and 63 locations, have nearly 3,000 employees. So the work of purpose is really alive in the work that we do, because we're serving those who are frail, we're serving those who are marginalized, we're serving those who are vulnerable. And we get the opportunity to step into their lives at this point. And so bringing purpose to alive is very important for us, because the individuals who usually work in our types of settings, purpose is critical to why they do what they do. They don't do what they do to make a lot of money. They do what they do because that's how they believe to be in service to the world. And places like Bickford and other senior care communities give them the opportunity to do that, to essentially live their calling. And so I want to share with you a little bit of a journey of how just from a leader standpoint, how did I think, become awakened to this purpose that was inside of me, be more attuned with that purpose, in which was trying to move in and through me. So one of the things that I believe to do really great, and this is not backed by, it may be backed by science, may not be backed by science. This is just speaking from my own personal experience. If you're going to do really deep purpose work, and if you really want to get connected with the purpose that's trying to move in and through you, I believe that that's an inside game. That what's going on inside of here is what you need to be able to connect with. I think you can read and study and educate yourself and be taught, different strategies and tactics to uncover purpose. But if you're really going to do purpose work that is from a position and a standpoint of calling, you have to be willing to do work on your inner game, your inside game. What is going on in here, and be connected to that, be in connection and relationship with that. So as a part of that, I think doing developmental work, leadership development work, spiritual development, emotional development work is paramount, because purpose just all doesn't come from a workshop. Purpose doesn't come from doing a study of everyone else's purpose in the world and what are words that you like or what are you attracted to. Purpose is an exploration of your soul, of what's inside of you, and getting in close contact with that. And that just doesn't happen. You don't just wake up one day and think, I'm going to do some purpose work, and all of a sudden it starts to come out. Maybe if you're a genius, or like you're like some spiritual guru or something, you got it. But like for me, it takes a lot of work. And so initially, that's how I met a few of the, Ron Barger here on the call, is through participating in a leadership academy about conscious leadership. And so I've been an active member of a leadership academy that is about conscious leadership development and growth for over, Ron, it's been 5 years now. And I've been going for 5 straight years, and paid a lot of money I basically could have got like a Harvard education doing that, but I'm doing this on conscious leadership journey, and it's been the best thing I've ever done. But as a part of that, they started to help me explore the exploration of that. And as I began engaging in purpose, my own pathway for that is I had a mentor and I had a guide. And I think it is a little bit important when you're doing some deep work to have someone hold you a bit, to have a container, have someone that you can talk to, that you can bounce things off of, because you can do it by yourself, but man, you can get there maybe more effectively with a guide and a mentor and a teacher. And so that's what the community has done for me. When I started doing my purpose work, it was probably about 3 months that I went really deep into myself. And out of that emerged what I believe to be a very strong purpose. And I remember talking to one of my mentors about that. And I was like, okay, I want to present to you my purpose. I've been working on it for a few months, and I'm passionate about it. And I've talked to all these, I've done all this work on it, and I want to show it to you. It's 3 months. And so I orchestrated this whole event, and I go down and see him, and I I say, okay, this is it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to uncover my purpose. And so I come out and I frame it up and I say it. And at the end of it, there was just quiet, didn't say anything. And he goes, Andy, you got a lot more in you than that. And like my whole like all this work that I have done wasn't even in the ballpark, but it was valuable. And what we talked about was engaging in a really deep mentor-led process to really uncover a purpose. So over the next 8 months in my life, I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would read a lot of almost poetic type writing, which is not natural. I was an athlete, football player guy. And so I would read a lot of different type of writings about kind of more of a poetic style writing, more of a conversations about love and awakening. And a lot of it was because of where I was as a personally developed as a conscious leader, that I was all in my head. I was all here. And so when I expressed my purpose to him that I was so excited about, it was coming from here. It was coming from, my mental strength and capacity. And what my teachers were helping me do was realize that my pathway to purpose was getting out of here and connecting to that which is here, which is much larger, which there's a lot more space. But I had to be trained to learn how to connect with that. So over the next 8 months, I would do the work, and I would read this stuff, and I would read poetic journals. And for me, the one I would watch, if you guys remember Steve Jobs, he had the Think Different campaign. And I watched that maybe 5,000 times. I would watch it maybe 10 times a morning talks about the people who changed the world. Because that was kind of the voice that I wanted to learn how to tap into. And so after some really difficult inside work, waking up early, version after version, and I remember the individual who was my mentor helping me navigate this, the most meaningful part to me was when I was getting real close and we were kind of like just really around the edges of it and just crafting it. And he said something to me that forever changed my life. He said, Andy, I'm not going to let go of this until you tell me to stop. I'm going to love this thing as much as you love it. And that really taught me a deep level of like brotherhood, of mentorship, of leadership, that someone cared enough about me that they were going to care about something that I cared about as deeply as I cared about it. And it really awakened me of like, when have I cared about something in someone else's life that I was willing to devote my life to it? And this individual did. And so out of that merged an expression of our purpose that we call a caregiver's manifesto. And that caregiver's manifesto was really a search of identity. A manifesto for us is how I describe it, it's a declaration of who you are and why do you do what you do. And we wanted something that wasn't intellectual. We wanted something that you felt. We wanted something that connected to our core identity. We wanted to get in connection with that. So we created what's called the manifesto, and that's our expression of purpose. So I'm going to share that with you. I have an opportunity to share that in like a video. So it's like a 1.5-minute video. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to share with you the manifesto of Bickford Senior Living. But to do that, let's just kind of change our posture. Sometimes when you're on Zoom, it always kind of messes you up. So kind of sit at the edge of your chair, right? Sit at the edge of your chair there, sit up straight. Sometimes when you change your posture, you kind of change your energy. You should close your eyes, do a deep breath, breathe it out. and before we start, I want you to imagine someone in your life who currently needs or has needed a caregiver, someone to help them with their daily life. Could be a mom, a father, aunt, an uncle, grandmother who needed care. Someone who is vulnerable. Someone who is marginalized. What type of person would you want to show up to serve that person? So go ahead and open up your eyes, and I'm going to share with you the manifesto of Bickford Senior Living. There is no higher calling. No greater purpose than that of a caregiver. Somehow, we've come to believe that caregiving is just for some of us and not all of us. Yet, at our core, we are all made to love, to connect, to extend ourselves in service of others. The question is, do we have the will to love, to do what it takes, to risk ourselves in caring, even when the burden is great? In times of happiness, in times of sadness, we are that caregiver, whatever it takes. So that's the manifesto of Bickford Senior Living, and that is our expression of purpose. And and I hope that that was meaningful to you. It's very meaningful to me, and I want to share a little bit of how I relate with that. Those words, that I did the voiceover for that because I wanted to come in close contact with who I believed I was as a leader and who our people are as human beings, and that I have a core belief that we are all made to love, and that our life is about extending that love in the service of others. And so when we create the manifesto, and when individuals create purposes, many times they're doing things to speak to their organization. And what the manifesto was about for me was learning to connect with that in which the caregiver that's inside of me, not the caregiver that's inside of not only the caregiver that's inside of our people, but the caregiver that's inside of me. And so as a leader of this organization, I don't see myself as a CEO, as a president, or as an owner of the business. I see myself as a caregiver because that is who I aspire to become, that when I am living my life in love, in the service of others, I am a caregiver. And as a leader, one of the core fundamental aspects that I think it takes for me to bring into the world, that in which I'm responsible for, is to learn how to lead in love. And I feel like that is the path that I am trying to learn, that in the role that I am in, how do I lead my organization in love? Because I believe at my core, that's who I am. I believe that's who you are. I believe that's the people who work in Bickford and everybody, is that we're here to serve, to be in service to. others. And so that manifesto is baked in so many aspects of our business, culturally, from a communication standpoint, it is, I really feel like my whole life is about learning how to infuse that heart of a caregiver into the operational aspects of everything that we do. Because it's not enough for me just to have this beautiful thing that connects emotionally and spiritually. It needs to be ingrained deeply into the fabric of the organization. And I believe that that's like are going to be my life's work, is learning how to take that manifesto and operationalize that, bring that into being. And so there's many aspects that I could share as it relates to how that manifesto has really transformed our organization, how it's changed how we relate with people, how it's deeply impacted the success of our organization, how it's helped us navigate. I mean, in the last year, I'm sure there's entrepreneurs on here. We've navigated bankruptcy, my company. We've navigated bankruptcy. We've navigated not paying our financial partners. We've navigated, imagine caring for frail elderly in a COVID environment. I've navigated attorney generals coming after us. We've navigated staff not showing up to serve residents because they have fear of COVID and we have responsibility for serving residents. We've navigated a very significant set of challenges. And at the core of us, if we didn't have that purpose of being a caregiver who is willing to do whatever it takes, which is our expression of our purpose, I would have quit, right? I mean, I would have said, it's not worth it. But that's not the game I'm playing. I'm not playing the game. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing all this just to run a successful business. I might share something here that Barger and I here on the call talk about quite a bit. And you guys may have heard this frame before, but it's something, this is a slide from when Ron and I talk and have created things, is it says there is at least two kinds of games. One could be called finite, the other infinite. A finite game is played for the purpose of winning. An infinite game is played for the purpose of continuing the play. And when we talk about trying times, challenging times, the question that Ron and I have asked ourselves a lot is, what game are you playing? Are you playing a finite game where your goal is to win and be successful and make a lot of money and quote unquote, live the good life? Or are you part of something that's much larger? Are you playing for something? Are you serving for something that's much larger? And for us, that's what we express, that we play this infinite game. And I think when I'm truly living into my purpose, when I'm truly moving into my life, I'm living from that place of playing the infinite game. That's not about wins and losses. Even coming from the athletic background, everything was about wins and losses. It's bigger than that. And I'll end with this because I know I want to leave some time for some questions, is, at the end of the day, what I feel like my life is as a leader, learning how to lead with love, is getting in relationship, being in connection with that in which is alive in me, that is trying to move in and through me, and be in as close as contact with that as possible. And then to infuse that into the world with the deepest amount of integrity as possible. That is, for me, how I'd express living a life purpose, is to being in close contact with that in which is moving, and in finding ways and using your platform, using everything that's around you to infuse that into the world. It is your responsibility. It is our responsibility to infuse that into the world with the deepest amount of integrity as possible. And out of that has emerged how we're living our life. It's informing our strategy. It's forming new businesses. I'm part of creating 4 new businesses right now. And all of that is merging out of that purpose in which we shared, of leading with love and leading with the heart of a caregiver and taking responsibility for that in which I believe is my responsibility to bring into the world. So, yeah, that's what's on my heart today. So there you go. So
I don't think we've ever done this, but I feel like we need a clap. Like this
yeah,
was
Yeah, let's.
very like chilling.
Why don't
Yeah.
we unmute and let's just send some love to Andy for all that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Very good,
Andy.
Andy. Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
awesome. Okay, well, if you guys want to start adding your questions to chat, we'll try to run through as many of these as we can. Sarah, actually, I saw your question here. Andy, how do you bring purpose to the manifesto into your hiring practice? So how do you use the manifesto in your hiring practice?
Oh, okay. Sarah, let me find Sarah on the call here. I want to talk to you. There she is. Okay, Sarah. I was doing a little Brady Bunch trying to find you, Sarah. Into your hiring practice, there's so many ways that we do it. One of which I'm just going to share with you is people. When I'm interviewing people that are here, one thing that I do is I open up that manifesto and then I sit in a room and we watch it together and I see how they relate with it. And I see how they make sense of it. And if they don't connect with it emotionally, if they don't connect with it spiritually, if they're not moved, if I don't feel them visibly moved by it, if they don't get a little bit uncomfortable because they're starting to share too much, that's how I know they're not the person. The person that the manifesto, when it hits them and you watch it and you begin to unpack that and relate with that together, you can feel them. So one thing that we do, and I'll answer this a little bit. I'm going to share a 3-minute story based upon that question. So hopefully that's okay.
Okay.
Sarah, when I first learned how to engage in the manifesto and have real conversations with caregivers, we went and onboarded one of the new communities in Virginia Beach. And it happened to be onboarding in this little white church right across the street from our community. And it was an old church built like in the 1800s. So anyways, it's me and the caregivers who are in the room, which, by the way, talking about purpose, every week, 3 hours a day, I onboard every single new employee to purpose through Zoom, 3 hours every single week. So anyone who's new in the organization once a week joins a purpose conversation with me. And it's not a check the box. It's 3 hours. And it's like relating back and forth. And that's how I do it in the onboarding practice. But anyways, one thing that we did in Virginia Beach story is it was possibly the coolest experience of my life. And we went in, and one thing I've learned as a leader, specifically when we're in these big training environments, is one of the things the leader is most responsible for is the space in which things happen. Not so much what's being talked about, but the container, the space, the atmosphere in which learning, connection, relationship happens. And so I've been learning how to create better space, right? And so we created a really great space with us and these caregivers, and we enrolled them into the conversation. And I've never been a part of something like this, but after we created the space, set the frames, enrolled their hearts, showed the manifesto, for the next 3 hours, I'm the trainer, I didn't say anything. And I sat in a chair, and one employee after another started coming up and saying, they were saying how they related with the manifesto, why it was so meaningful to them. Every single one of them was crying, and they're like, I didn't know this is who I was. I didn't know this is what it felt like. And then I'd have some caregivers who came to me and I was sitting in my chair and they were like, Andy, this is who we are. And they were like talking to me like that. And they were like, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do here. It was like I was in a locker room. And for 3 hours, these caregivers led church service. And I immediately left that training. And this is no lie. And what I'm about to say is so ostentatious. And I know it's stupid, but like, this is how I talk. So give me some forgiveness. I called my mentor who helped me create the manifesto. And I said, I want you to know something. I called him up and I said, I want you to know something. I just left the best training in the history of American business. And I was like, it was so ostentatious, but in my experience, it was true, because what happened was what I learned in the manifesto is that I connected to something that through the manifesto, through our purpose, we connected to something that was so alive in them and was like this. They felt known. They felt like empowered of like, this is who I was. And this company is going to allow me to be that. And that's when I knew it was special, was that moment. And so, if you go through one of those experiences with me, I share it a lot different than what I shared it today, because it's more about the uncovering of purpose, not like enrolling you into our purpose. This is more like, what was the pathway and things. So I took a different approach today. But so how do I keep it how do I bring it to life in the hiring process? I keep it alive in me, and then I'm in relationship at that point. So
That's awesome.
So
okay,
That's
I'm
great.
gonna ask.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm gonna ask one more question, because I know we're coming up on time, and hopefully Andy can stay and other people can stay, but I want to stay on time for the ones that have to leave. So I am a Marino has a question. How can someone with bills move from having purpose generally into having a calling for their work and career, which brings that purpose to life every day? Which I actually think the question is, how can you not? But that would be the way I would phrase it. So Andy, why is this purpose so important when you have bills to pay? There's money to make, there's all these different things. What's the biggest why behind it for you?
I'd answer that question several ways. So that's a great question. Thanks for that. And I'm finding you here on the screen. I'm going to talk to you. There he is. All right. First of all, my question would be, how can someone with bills? Man, I am very capable of answering that question, because I have more bills to pay than I have money. Living in the senior living business right now, truth, vulnerability. I am so underwater of being able to run a successful business from a financial perspective, because I'm operating in a pandemic. I'm serving frail and vulnerable people. I'm paying my workforce many times 1.5 double pay. Occupancy in our industry is down 20%. So I am so underwater financially. So bills to pay, I get that. I get that feeling. I get that experience. And my relationship to that would be, when you're in that situation, when you have these bills to pay and you have these things to do, if I didn't have purpose, it would crumble me. But what purpose has done is allowed me to focus like a laser on that in which matters most in our organization, and stay true to that in the good times and the times when you're getting your ass kicked. And what you realize, if you bring that into the world, you're either going to make it through it, or you're going to evolve into that in which you're needing to become. And because sometimes the very things that you're in, you need to shed. And at the end of the day, many times as a business leader, you don't know what you want, right? You don't know if you should shed it. You don't know if you should keep going on fighting. And sometimes your purpose is the thing that carries that through, and you go right through it, and your purpose it is your guide. It is your compass in those times. And so for me, staying true to that purpose has helped me realize paying those bills and having that responsibility, staying true to my purpose and being willing to do that in the good and the bad, has helped me has helped me navigate that. I also believe, how can someone with bills answering that question? There's another answer is, and what I talk to our people about, when many times when people talk about purpose, the focus is on what you're doing. You know, like in whether it's this manufacturing company or this insurance company or this financial business or this healthcare thing, the focus is always on what. And I think purpose is about why. And I think it's less about what you do and why you do it. So, you know, sometimes when people look at like me in my industry and I'm serving frail and vulnerable, marginalized people, they're like, oh, well, it's easy to have a purpose in that. But for me, it's not about what you do. I don't care if you're mopping the floor, sweeping streets. It's how you do it. You should do whatever it is that you are doing, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing now, in such a way that people feel your purpose, even when you may be just sweeping a street, right? You might be just sweeping a street, but the way in which you do it, that's purpose for me. I don't care if you're in construction, engineering, computer programming, it doesn't matter what. Purpose is the how and the why, which is much bigger than the what.
For sure. Oh my goodness. I don't know about you guys, but I could stay on here all day with Andy. Keep asking these questions, but feel free to keep putting your questions in there. Maybe this is something where we can, you know, continue this conversation, you know, beyond this. And, you know, and Andy, are you able to stay on a little bit longer?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, good. So if you guys feel like you can stay on. We'll keep answering questions that you guys have on here. But for the purposes of the people who have to leave right at 1 o'clock sharp, Ron, do we want to do the quick round of appreciations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Sadie can go ahead and share the survey out in chat as well. And then we'll just make sure we share with you guys the announcements that are coming up via the email. We want to introduce 2 of our new members. We'll do that through the email, and then also the event coming up on May 18th. So Ron, I'll kick it over to you.
All right. So a lot of times we end these just trying to wrap into appreciation on a lot of different things. And so today, Andy's talked about leading with love, right? And caring and being a caregiver. So what I'd like to do is to appreciate Andy, and let's send Andy some love. So what did you most appreciate, or what did you most love about what Andy shared with us today? Throw that in the chat real quick, and let's just send him a little tsunami of love and appreciation for his vulnerability and just sharing so much about his journey and the passion. I mean, I'm guessing you guys felt it, because I felt it right through the Zoomosphere.
The Zoomosphere. I'm gonna start using that term, Ron. I like that. The Zoomosphere.
I stole it from somebody else, but I like it. All right, hearing your journey of moving from head to heart. Man, I think it's all about moving from head to heart. So important as a leader. Sharing your journey. I just read that one. Not just an intellectual purpose. I loved and was inspired by your passion and the permission to give. Okay, to give, to a lot, give and to live imperfection purpose from the seat you're in. How do I lead my organization with love? Amazing passion, so grateful. Inspired me to connect with love with all my interactions. Thank you. How about that? That's pretty powerful, Andy. Appreciate you for sharing passion, insights, vulnerability. Love seeing the video. I know there were tears. I saw that, and I watched it 3 or 4 times, and every time I'm so moved by that.
I may or may not have taken a screenshot of everybody.
Heart.
Oh no.
Having a heart on a wholesome display. Appreciate you for sharing the philosophy and the reminder that embracing ourselves, not to be afraid to show up as who we are and what makes us unique in the world. Emotional, caring mind and the logical mind both have a place in business. And Kathy, what a great way, I think, to finish this. It's yes and. I was always taught that you get one or the other, you leave your personal shit at home. But man, Andy taught us today, you don't do that. You bring it all. You bring everything you've got to work, and it becomes yes and magnified. So, all right, are you wrapping up from here, Christina? I think we're right at 1 o'clock, but I'm super grateful for everybody showing up today and sharing the
I am too. Thank you, Ron. So real quickly, I just wanted to announce and officially welcome Kyle Danner and Kelly Jackson, as well as Sadie Barker. We have 3 new members of our leadership team. So we're very excited to have them on board, and we're looking forward to their contributions. And I know you guys will start to feel their contributions. Both Kelly and Kyle have really exciting ideas about some new events and programming that we can bring to the community. So we're very excited about that. So definitely, if you're not following us on social, if you're not on our email distribution list, please do sign up so that you can stay in contact with us and continue to participate in these events. As for right now, they are free. We're hoping that we can continue to provide these events free through sponsorships from our local community. So if you have companies or you yourself are interested in sponsorships, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we are just really grateful to have all of you guys here today and look forward to, hopefully you guys can join us on the May 18th event. We did include the workbook today and the email reminders that you got yesterday and today, and we're going to be doing that deep dive on those. So thank you everybody for coming. And if you can stay with us, definitely do stay with us, but we wanted to honor the people who need to leave right at 1 o'clock. So thank you. And with that, it's exactly 1 o'clock. Woo! That was some hustling.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So Andy, we did have another question that I skipped over from Habing. So let me get that here really quickly. I got to scroll through the chat here real quick. Give me just a second.
Christina, while
Okay.
you're doing that, you had introduced a question from Michael, whose last name, and I'm probably going to butcher that. I am Marino, but Michael is your first name, correct?
Yes.
So I just want to clarify that so everybody knows who was
Yeah.
asking.
Perfect. So Habing asked, can you share an instance, Andy, in which you struggled to lead with love and heart, and how did you overcome it? Especially since after you found your purpose and your manifesto and have done all of that work, that really intense work that you talked about.
Yeah, I'd say can I share an instance? How about can I share every day, right? You know, the purpose work is, I really believe it is an inner game. It's an inside game, right? And as complex as we are as human beings, you know, we can get off kilter so fast. I know myself. I mean, I can have an amazing purpose-filled day, and then I wake up and the next day and I'm trapped. There's something blocking me, right? And usually what is that? Usually for me, it's fear, right? And so I think that's why I talked about at the beginning being that, you know, from my vantage point, purpose is moving, it's alive, and it comes in and through. And what happens is we constrict, we block it. And we do that with inappropriately handling the emotions that life presents us. And I used to like really think a lot of emotions were bad, like, oh, sadness is bad or fear is bad. And what I learned is it's more about being attuned to what's currently alive in me, whether that's fear, sadness, happiness, passion, and relate. And it's less about what the emotion is and more about how I relate with it, because sometimes that fear and that sadness is teaching me something about myself. And and those emotions are there to serve me. My emotions are bad. I'm a human being. I'm alive. I have emotions. So I think the instances in which my purpose is not alive in me is when I'm constricting and blocking and keeping that fluidity of my emotion and the being alive in me. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So essentially, it's about, you know, not escaping from these emotions. I think, you know, especially with a lot of us, you know, at the workplace, like you said before, right? Oh, you know, feeling, for example, like angry or upset, that's bad. I need to, for example, set that aside. But instead, you want us to be in tune with these feelings. Like, why am I feeling this way? How can I relate to these feelings and sort of just dive, so face them head on, essentially, right?
Yeah. And That's a great, and you know what, like I'm speaking like I'm really good at it. Like I struggle at it just like everyone else on this call. So to set that frame, but there's this poem that you guys may know, and in my readings I came across. It's from Rumi, as old Indian, I believe Indian,
Yeah,
from
guru.
India. Yeah, and he has a poem called "The Guest House," and what he in that poem is about is like all these visitors who come into your home. Some are welcome, like happy emotions, and some are not welcome, like these what we tend to think is not welcome, like sadness or fear. And what he talks about is welcoming them and make them feel accepted and changing and learning a new relationship with them, that they're there for a reason and they're teaching you about something. And as an example, there was a time in my life being where I was really struggling with anger on a certain issue that really was popping up routinely, and I had a hard time getting out of that anger for a while. And one of my coaches told me, they're like, your anger is beautiful. Just allow it to serve something that's beautiful. Just keep your anger, but use it and surface it in something that's beautiful. And so I was like this like Jedi mind trick on me of like, wait a second, I can still be angry and then like use that for like good. It was like this Jedi mind trick. And then all of a sudden, when I started not being scared of my anger or like, shaming myself for having anger, I was like, wow, that anger is actually serving something and is there for a reason. And maybe I need to have some anger. And it healed me. And then I didn't struggle with the anger anymore. So then I was like, well, there you go.
That's really cool.
Hey, Andy, can I add to that?
Ooh, Christina, look at you, man.
Huh.
This being is human as a guest house.
Oh,
Every morning,
yeah.
a new arrival. There it is. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. All those emotions. Welcome and entertain them all. It's beautiful.
If you run back through the chat, we've been sharing all of your insights along the way.
Okay.
Chat. We
Cool.
love to do that. So that way
Right.
people aren't Googling it and searching for it. Ron, you were gonna add. What did you have to add?
I just think this is really important. I believe in our society that we are taught to numb, suppress, ignore how we feel. We either use food, we use alcohol, we use many, many different ways, busyness, to not be able to feel that. And so in my own journey, like learning how to be okay with that, like what Andy said, and actually, resistance times pain equals suffering. I was taught that expression. So when we resist what's passing through us, it makes us suffer. But when we just allow it to be, it actually just passes through and it's gone. And also, like Andy said, I find it very difficult at times. It's easy in practice, but we're all human. But I just think I wanted to add to that. I think it's important on a conscious journey to be fully whole and fully human.
Yeah, that's great. What other questions? Do you guys have more questions for Andy?
Thanks, Sabine.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys, this was awesome today. We tried out a new format and I love it personally. So I'm excited to see the survey feedback on this, and the ones of you guys that could stay with us. We're really grateful for the extra time. So thank you for staying on. So real quickly, you guys look for an email from us. We will have additional resources. We're going to go further in these insights that we've started to unearth here around higher purpose. We'll have the survey in there. We'll also have the registration for the May 18th event, and we'll also continue to have that workbook. So if that's something that, you're feeling the inspiration right now, you're welcome to start working through that workbook. And then when we come together on May 18th again, it'll be that much more richer for the work that you've started to put in around it. And yeah, and if you guys feel inspired and you have things around higher purpose you want to share with us, definitely reach back out. If there's stories of inspiration, other companies, other individuals, things like that, we want to start incorporating more of that in our social and sharing it with our community. So we're just very grateful for having all of you. And thank you, Andy, so much. I knew today was going to be awesome. So you did not disappoint. I'll just tell you that right now.
Good being with y'all. Go KC.
Thank you.
See
Have
ya.
a good day, everybody.
Bye.